Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, the series about data engineering and data science within Microsoft Fabric. Today, Guy joins us to discuss Spark compute capabilities. To kick things off, Guy, could you please introduce yourself and share what you are working on?
You bet. My name is Guy Haycock. I'm a principal PM in the Fabric Spark system. I look after a lot of the platform capabilities around region rollout in over 40 regions worldwide, and also how we choose and optimize the Azure VM SKU that we use for Fabric Spark.
Awesome. So we are starting the series, the episodes when and where we will discuss Spark performance, and we can't talk about Spark performance without starting conversation about Spark compute capabilities. So to dive right in, Guy, could you please share your perspective on what are the features of Fabric Spark memory optimized computes?
Yeah, you bet. Right? You know, we live within the Azure family, so obviously we have access to all of the Azure VM SKUs, but particularly for Spark, because it is memory resident, we've chosen to go with a very modern Intel memory optimized SKU. And by memory optimized, I mean it has more megabytes of memory per core than standard non-memory optimized Azure VMs. And then the other thing we look for is what is the performance of that VM riding over to ADLS Gen 2. So the particular SKU we use has very high memory per core and also has the highest throughput, either sustained or burst, using a particular chipset on the hardware blade that gives us the highest read and write performance to ADLS Gen 2.
So as a user, can I select a different SKU, or I'm tied it to a memory optimized? Because we have tons of different VMs. I can provision Spark on VMs as a service. I can use in Synapse, we had memory optimized, but I also recall that there have been compute optimized and GPU hardware as well. So can I select a different SKU?
In Fabric, you can't. We're a software as a service solution, and we think that simply shipping the decision to customers on what VM SKU they use, it just adds more complexity to their work. We choose the VM SKU on your behalf. We do the regular benchmarking testing as newer Azure VM SKUs come out, and we use typically TPC-DS to work out which Azure VM SKU in a general workload gets us the highest performance. So no, customers can't choose the SKU. There are other solutions such as HD Insight where you can do that. It's not a SaaS-based solution, and there is much more complexity running Spark jobs in an IaaS-like environment such as HD Insight.
Thanks for clarifying that. So from the user's perspective, how frequent do you roll the new hardware? You mentioned that you are running the evaluation on specific benchmarks, but from the plan's perspective, what we can expect, what is coming?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be hard and fast on how this happens because it's driven by the innovation that AMD or Intel is providing. That's where it starts at, the actual chipset that we're using. And then it flows through Azure VMs. We're on a Intel-based V5 SKU, and that doesn't change that often. We did the work to do the benchmarking and testing over a year ago before Fabric was announced. Synapse Spark is in the process of moving from a V3 Intel SKU to a V5 Intel SKU. You can find a blog from me which has exactly which regions are on V3, which regions are on V5. We launched Fabric in public preview with V5 SKUs everywhere in the world except for one teeny tiny region. And we have work this calendar year to go and look at the future V6 SKUs that are coming out through Azure VM. I don't have great timing on that. That's controlled by Azure, but it's possible that we move to an even more performant SKU starting at the end of this year, something like that. So it's generally every 18 months to 2 years, we go and evaluate what's the latest SKU, where should we move to. But it's complicated. There are 44 regions worldwide in Azure that Fabric is in. We can't just flip a switch and convert everything worldwide because it's millions and millions of cores. It's a hard thing to do.
What about Synapse? We have dozens of customers who are using Synapse as of now. Majority of them wants to migrate to Fabric. Is the hardware the same under those two services?
It's not. The majority of US regions in Synapse run on a V3 Intel SKU, and all of the regions bar one in Fabric run on the V5 SKU. There's about a 77% performance gain if you're in East US in Synapse versus Fabric in East US. We are slowly moving Synapse from the V3 to the V5 SKU. It happens region by region, and it depends on us being able to get large amounts of capacity from Azure VMs. And that's not a quick or a simple process.
If I plan the migration and the hardware is different, and you mentioned that I will get the performance boost because with Fabric the performance is better just because, and one of the reasons is because we are using a different hardware. Is there anything I should be prepared for? Meaning that is the change of the hardware impacting my workloads, not in a way that I have to rewrite some code, or it's invisible for me?
Yeah, it's transparent to customers. Your workload will either run faster if you keep the same number of cores, or cost less if you reduce the number of cores that you use for the workload. You'll get the performance boost depending on how you configure the workload, how many cores you want to use. It may run 77% faster, or it may cost 77% less, depending on how you configure the job.
The boost is there, and do you have any comment on price comparison, compute running on Synapse versus on Fabric?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we didn't change the price of Synapse Spark in regions where we've moved to the V5 SKU, where they're just giving the performance boost to customers. And also the price per, the term's a little bit different. The price per vCore hour in Synapse Spark is actually more expensive than the price per vCore hour. It's actually converted to CUs in Fabric. So Fabric is both faster and it's cheaper per vCore hour than Synapse Spark.
Sounds hilarious. So what are the future plans?
So there are some V6 SKUs coming out from Azure in the first quarter for Intel and the second quarter for AMD. We'll go and test those and see what the improvement is, and then build a plan to roll that, whichever SKU we choose, out to our 40 plus regions worldwide, which will take us some time. So we have future testing coming, and then a future VM SKU update once those SKUs are broadly available.
Thank you for today, and thank you everyone for watching this episode. Remember to leave the comment, the suggestion, the question to me, to Guy. And until next time, happy exploring Microsoft Fabric, migrating your workloads from Synapse to Fabric to take the benefit of the performance and lower costs. Thank you so much.